This is the first day of the March-April 1986 retreat. Before we start, two announcements. We still have a residual odor of the floor, of the substance that was put on the floor, which affects some people more than others. And we're trying to keep this place well ventilated, at the same time trying to avoid to give people a chill or a draft. If it's just getting cold, maybe having an extra sweater in here available to put on may help. If you feel that you're sitting in a draft, then please let us know, let the coordinators know, so we can adjust things optimally for everyone. The other announcement is about meeting time. Some people are here who were not there for the opening talk, in which it was mentioned that in this retreat there are more people than we've had during the last two retreats, where meeting time could expand freely with each person without feeling time pressure or not bringing things up because one thinks there's no time. Can there still be awareness in both of us sitting there that other people are also waiting to come to a meeting? There is time to look together, and yet not to let it expand too much. Not to feel rushed, to feel free to speak, and yet also to be aware of other people waiting. There are quite a number of people here who have never been to a retreat. So a number of things will be mentioned about a talk, about talking and listening. But for all of us who have heard this and said this many times, is it possible, all of us, to start from scratch? Putting aside what we've heard and said before and looking at this whole thing anew. So no record keeps running at the same time, which then makes for either boredom, comparison, the mind wandering off, and not being in the state of listening without wanting. Listening and looking without expecting or judging, commenting. And yet if something is said that is not understood or that one cannot agree with, that arouses a need to discuss further or to, then please bring it up in a meeting. Things brought up in a meeting provide further stuff, don't take that word judgmentally, for the next talk, so that we can clarify and drop, and the mind being free and spacious to look and observe what's actually happening inside and out, from no point of view. if possible, to find some position for sitting, chair, bench, cushions, which are comfortable. Talk usually lasts about 50 minutes, I think. Not to use this time to induce pain so one has something to work with. To be, if one knows this position will hurt me after 20 minutes or so, then take another one. It's much easier to listen when the body is relaxed. No need to worry about its pains and what to do about it or how to endure it. And if a position nonetheless becomes uncomfortable, to feel free to change it. And yet, can one change it with a minimum of noise? Some noise is inevitable. Like in everything we do. We talked last night about silence, quietly moving, quietly working or opening and closing doors. And yet there are the natural sounds of each activity, and not to make a problem out of those. Some people are heavier than others, and their footsteps resound more than those of someone who is light. Just to listen to the sounds one makes. That's enough when the listening is whole. Not just partial or with a motive. The motive to be quiet often ends up in banging something extra loud. Motive coupled with fear of doing the wrong thing. With that, the wrong thing is already set up to happen. Wrong thing in quotation marks. Not just awareness of what's happening in oneself, but the circle widening and widening. The enclosure opening up to the wholeness of existence, the wholeness of life, which includes every human being, everything that's alive. All the grass and rocks, waters, sky, trees, everything. The stars at night, the moon, the clouds. So changing a posture and doing it quietly need not be a disturbance. If one feels it's a disturbance when one's neighbor changes a posture, can the awareness open up to what it is that is disturbing? Is there an idea in there? The idea that he or she should be quiet, he or she is disturbing me. Then the reaction to this idea begins to cause internal noise. Anger or resentment or whatever. When that is seen and melts away, then a sound is just that. We touched upon it last night, this so-called teacher-student relationship, which is in many people's minds, particularly if one comes here for the first time, can one drop it, put it aside immediately? It is not adequate, it is not even descriptive what is going on. As someone is talking, can the listening and the talking happen on the same level? That can only happen when there is no image of me as a receiver, as a student, or I don't know what all images one has. One has to look and can discover for oneself. And what images one may have of the person who's talking, just look at it and see that these are images and that they come in the way of a listening which is on the same level as the talking, a moving together. Where the looking is important, not who's talking and who's listening, but that human beings look together and alone at the human condition as it is manifested in oneself, in all of us. If that looking doesn't take place, we are all on automatic. Like an airplane where the pilot puts it on automatic in order to visit with the travelers, with the passengers. Any kind of emergency, there's no one there to see. Because the mind is visiting. It happens so for any human being, no matter who it is. When there's no attention, the automatic behavior patterns, thinking patterns take over. One doesn't have to push any buttons. Now I'm not attentive, I got to push some buttons to be it happens. It is so. One can find this out for oneself. One of the most prominent patterns in all human beings, the I pattern, me, my satisfaction, my needs, my importance, my rights, my fears, my problems, my pleasures and joys, my family, and so on. An automatic pattern that takes over the mind and body when there's no attention. And this is what we're looking at, what will point out freshly, time and time again, what is happening in the human mind, alone and in relationship, so that the clouds give way to some light, insight, understanding, and acting and thinking without automatism. Or if something has happened, automatically to see it as such, as an automatic reaction coming from all kinds of past happenings, imprints on the mind, which have this ability in the brain, which is a computer, to react instantly, automatically when stimulated. In that every human brain is alike, it is not different from one person to another. And when there's attention or the wondering about all of this automatic reacting that keeps human beings from being in direct, immediate, and loving relationship. When one begins to wonder about this, then there may be attention to what is going on. And this is what talks or meetings are all about. Not someone passing on a teaching, principles, theories, dogmas, doctrines, but to look together or alone. Obviously, looking no one can do for another. One can talk about something, and when the words do not just come from memory of something learned, but they come out of looking and searching or inquiring, then two minds can meet at the same level. Not the verbal one. To meet at the verbal level is relatively easy, or to fight at the verbal level is even easier. To argue. Well, I have that opinion, and my point of view is that I disagree with you. That often is a real, one wants to do that. It gives energy to argue, to disagree. And that itself, can one look at it when it happens? Is it that as really disagreement, a factual disagreement? Or is it that one needs this irritation, this energy-producing irritation being in combat with someone? Because then one feels one is somebody again, somebody to hold the point of view and to defend it. Substituting maybe an image of someone who gives in to someone who is right. So is that understandable, clear, that when one looks together at what happens in the human mind and body and in human relationship, interrelationship, on the smallest level as well as on the global level, that in that direct looking, there's no doctrine or dogma involved, no lore or knowledge, there's looking what's actually happening. And therefore no accepting or following. It has to be tested for oneself whether something is really so. Immediately, that's the best time, immediately looking. If one thinks, well, I'll take this along and think about it later, then one does what we have been doing in school and university and on the job, namely thinking, and in the process of thinking accumulating knowledge about subject matter, about a topic, about ourselves. And this work, as I see it here, is not to start accumulating knowledge about oneself, but to see as one goes how this mind functions in automatic reaction and counter-reaction with all its associated emotional, physical sensations and responses. To become aware of that, not in order to accept it or get rid of it, but because it's happening. One could say, well, why should I look at myself? That's selfish, that's self-centered. I'd rather be altruistic and think of other people and help other people in their sorrow, difficulties. Also sometimes people say to me, I really, honestly, am not that interested. I don't seem to find this passionate interest that you imply needs to be there to look at oneself. I don't have it. It's not there. I don't want to look, really. Let's look at that for a moment. There really seems to be a fact that we can at any time have quite a passionate interest in what is happening with other people, close and far. All of our media, from the most sophisticated newspaper, journal, magazine, to the tabloid, feed that passionate interest about other people and what's happening elsewhere, albeit in our own neighborhood. Why are we so inordinately interested in what other people are doing? The whole involvement of all of us in gossip attests to this passionate interest in what other people are doing, up to, or should be doing, or shouldn't be doing, including on the national, global level, the preoccupation with other countries' evil doings, or always looking outward at somebody or something else. Why? First of all, does one see that this is so? That one can almost immediately arouse an interest in someone else's problems, and be ready to explain, analyze, find reasons for it, or maybe suggest solutions, what a person could do or should be doing, or rather not be doing. And often this blindness to what oneself is engaged in from moment to moment, and the resistance or inability to look. Or is there an inability to look? There isn't. Of course there isn't. One can become aware instantly of being angry or greedy, jealous or wanting. But does looking at these things in other people serve maybe even the purpose of not looking here? One may find that one can solve one's problems by one's involvement with others. Which, of course, does not happen. Problems can only begin to resolve themselves if they're seen in oneself, not in others. But if seeing problems in others will make one wonder, does this go on here too? And watching, then there can be a real cross-fertilization of what one sees in someone else and what is so annoying or so upsetting or so admirable. To look, what does it connect with in oneself? And then not think about it, but be open to what has been triggered or what button has been pushed by someone else's action or reaction. unless this openness to allow one's own automatic behavior, one's hurts and revenges to reveal themselves foremost, firsthand. There cannot be any free and loving relationship. It's impossible. It'll always be a patronizing relationship with someone else if one doesn't look here but sees everything wrong or right there. We started out asking yesterday in the opening talk, why are we here? What did we come for? What did we intend to do or to get out of this? And then going on to say that we have so many ideal notions about what a meditation retreat is, what one could attain through it, accomplish or become. All of it ideas. Which serve like the interest in stories about other people to take one away from observing what is actually happening. Having a goal gives energies, and these energies feel good. There's not this inner feeling of emptiness, what should I be doing? One can think of the goal and allow the energy to support some kind of a practice here, concentrating on something, because one has been promised or told or heard or read. Concentrating on something will eventually bring the mind to such and such a state. Is it possible to sit down or walk? It doesn't have to be confined to sitting. But most people at a retreat like this do sitting most of the time. Is it possible to sit down without any goal in mind? But to start questioning goals if they are foremost in the mind, where they come from, their effect on the whole mental and physical organism. And wonder what one would do without any goal. This question has been put in meetings, and people have seriously wondered whether there would be any energy left if there was no goal. The goal to attain something or to become somebody. And the way we've been raised from tiny little beings is always goal-directed, already to start, even to start walking or to start having a tooth is a goal for the parent, for the child, and communicates itself. The child is tuned into the mother and father's pleasures at progressing. So one learns through eye contact to fulfill, make the parents happy, because that is a safe time at home when the parents are happy. It's not so safe when they're not happy. We don't We don't know anything but goal-directedness or its opposite, failing to have goals, or having failed in attaining goals, and then all the negative imagery, the drained feeling of despair or depression. Can one innocently question whether it's possible to be without a goal and not go to sleep? And then people will bring this question. One starts thinking about this. Often one doesn't do it. One starts thinking about it and says, well, isn't questioning also a goal? Is it? Does it have the characteristics of a goal? Projecting a state which will be attained if I only question well enough, then I'll attain something. Yeah, then one has, that is not questioning. This is using a certain method again to attain a state one doesn't know of, but can fantasize about plenty. But to start from not knowing and openly wonder, listening, looking, the words are not the actuality of doing it. In that there's no goal. There's not knowing. One doesn't know what's there. And one doesn't know what's going to happen when something is seen. Let the seeing be the doing. The questioning be the doing. Not doing this in order to attain something else. Then one isn't with this. One is with the reward. The reward becomes the dominant thing, the important thing. And as it is when we're living daily, we are slurring over what is happening this moment in order to get to the next moment, or to the next thing, or to the free time, to the movies. That these goals will flash, if one will watch it during a drab day, these goals of more pleasant times in the evening will flash every once in a while as a little slideshow. Comes a slide, and that may infuse the wearied body-mind with some energy. Yeah, I'm going to do that later, or go on a trip. And a little bit of energy is aroused by that prospect to carry on, to get this over with. But what is this? If the slideshow has no electricity, if the plug is pulled out, you say, well, wait a minute, how do you pull the plug out? By seeing what it is. It's an induced reward system to give some energy to get over something one doesn't like or doesn't want to be with. And unless there's the interest in what is actually happening, one will continue. The plug will not be pulled. But if one wants to find out what is drabness, what is boredom, what is this dis-ease with this that's here right now, when that interest is there, then one will realize that flashing future rewards distracts from seeing what is here, from being that completely, without any acceptance. Acceptance has nothing to do with it. It is a way of no division. Through any technique of projecting rewards or projecting future entertainment, which is division. Do you see that? I numb myself, slur over what's happening now, dreaming of what I'm going to do later. There's division. There's conflict, which drains energy. causes irritation, all kinds of symptoms that can be observed by each one of us. So we started out this last thing by asking, is it possible to sit or walk or work without a motive or goal? Which means the attention has to be subtle to detect subtle motives and subtle goals. They come in automatically when the attention doesn't catch it. And we're again in some kind of a treadmill. To see that, feel it, it's all palpable. To a mind that is wondering about itself. Realizing that this itself is not different as it happens in you or them or anybody. There's a real connection among human beings, and there's tremendous difficulty or resistance to be without conflict or division with what is actually happening. Not enduring it, but seeing it. Suffering itself can be made into a goal, into a motive. Maybe one has heard that through suffering one will attain, so one welcomes suffering as a means to an end and doesn't understand what it is. What is suffering? Suffering hurt, suffering insult, degradation, or whatever. Failing. Depression. What are the ingredients of this suffering? How did it come about? How is it coming about from moment to moment? If it is coming about. To see it, to watch it, to observe it. This leads to that. I don't want to be treated as inferior or as subordinate. Who is he or she to tell me what to do? I don't want my feelings hurt. Who is hurt? Who is subordinate or who is superior? What is all of that? What is the substance of it? The reality of it? Is that investigatable? My image, can that be seen? Can an image be seen as it arises? It can be felt, the hurt can be felt. If somebody questions one thinks that person has no right to question me or to say this to me. There's a hurt. What is it that hurts? And that automatically jumps or defends or aggresses? Or withdraws. Sitting and walking, working quietly. can there be an opening up without defenses. Seeing defenses and not automatically rolling with defenses, but feeling insecurity if it's there, but not calling it that, allowing all of these strange things that are usually suppressed through entertainment or thinking or whatever we're doing. Can there be an opening up to all of that as an opening to the fresh air, the breeze, the coldness or warmth, the sound of the birds or the peepers? An opening which has no boundaries, because there's no motive and no wanting, no end goal. And I was going to say to welcome whatever happens, but to take that word cautiously. It is not that there is a welcomer, but that the mind and body does not resist or withdraw from anything, but rather wonders, what is it? When all my ancient words, vocabulary, reactions are seen for what they are, ancient. Even what happened yesterday is already ancient. It's not the fresh air of this moment. We will end here for today.